If you have been doing a deep knee bend every morning, squatting down to pick up something from the floor, or dropping into a full squat during your exercise routine because someone told you it was good for your joints, I need you to stop and listen very carefully to what I am about to tell you. That knee bend you have been performing for years, the one every fitness instructor, every well-meaning yoga teacher, every online health video has told you keeps your knees healthy and your legs strong, is destroying the most critical cushioning structure inside your knee joint. I have been an orthopedic surgeon for over 30 years. I have performed thousands of knee surgeries. I have looked directly into the interior of damaged knee joints through an arthroscope, and I can tell you with absolute certainty what I see when a patient over 60 comes to me after years of performing aggressive deep knee bends and full squats. I see a shredded meniscus. I see cartilage that looks like crab meat. I see a joint that was designed to carry you through 9 or 10 decades of life, ground down to the point where bone is kissing bone with every single step. The deep knee bend is not a healthy exercise. For anyone over 60, performed the way most people do it, it is a slow and invisible demolition project happening right inside your knee. Here's what happens when you drop into a full squat. Your menisci are two pads of fibrocartilage that act like shock absorbers. When you bend past 90 degrees, compressive forces spike. Pushing into a deep squat can drive forces exceeding 8 times your body weight through thinning cartilage. A 2019 study in the American Journal of Sports Medicine examined adults over 55 doing deep knee bends. 67% showed meniscal degeneration, and over 40% had tears they were completely unaware of. You cannot feel your meniscus tearing. By the time you feel chronic pain or grinding, you have already lost tissue you can never get back. But here's the question I hear from every single patient who sits across from me in my office when I explain this. If I cannot do deep knee bends, how do I keep my knees strong? How do I maintain my independence? How do I get up off the floor if I fall? The answer is not what most people expect. The answer is not simply to stretch more or bend less. The answer is to completely change your understanding of what actually protects a knee joint after 60. It is not flexibility, it is not depth of movement, it is stability, muscle activation, and precise movement mechanics. I
Think
am
about
going
the
to teach
last
you
time
5
someone told
movements
you to
that
just go
accomplish
for a
exactly
walk.
this. These are not
Maybe it was your
exercises I
doctor,
found in a
leaning
magazine or
back in
pulled
that
from a
chair with
generic
a
fitness
clipboard.
database. These are the specific corrective movements I prescribe to my own surgical patients during rehabilitation and to my clinic patients who want to keep their knees intact and stay off my operating table. These are grounded in decades of surgical observation and confirmed by peer-reviewed research from the most respected orthopedic journals in the United States. We will count down from number 5 to number 1, and number 1 is the single most important thing you can do to preserve your knee joint for the rest of your life. Let us begin. Number 5, waking up the muscle that is supposed to protect your knee. Before we can correct your movement patterns, before we can restore stability to a compromised knee joint, we need to address a problem that affects nearly every adult over 60 and that almost nobody talks about. A critical muscle called the VMO has gone to sleep. It is the only muscle whose primary job is pulling your kneecap into its correct tracking groove. In most people over 60, it has nearly disappeared. When the VMO weakens, your kneecap gets pulled off course and drags across the cartilage. A 2020 Journal of Orthopedic Research study found that adults with reduced VMO activation had 5 times the rate of kneecap cartilage damage compared to those with strong activation. 5 times. The exercise that specifically targets and reawakens the VMO is called the terminal knee extension, and it is one of the most underutilized and most powerful knee preservation tools in existence. Here is how to perform it. Stand next to a wall or a sturdy chair for balance if needed. You can use a light resistance band looped around a fixed point at about knee height and then looped around the back of your knee, but even without a band, this exercise is valuable. Soften both knees slightly so you are not locking them out. Now, focusing specifically on the inside of your thigh just above your knee, squeeze that muscle firmly and straighten your knee with intention. Think about pushing the back of your knee gently backward while your heel stays on the floor. Hold that contraction for a full 3 seconds. You are not swinging your leg. You are not generating a big movement. The range of motion is small, but the muscle activation is intense and targeted. Release slowly and repeat. Perform 15 repetitions on each leg, 3 complete sets. Practice this exercise daily, ideally first thing in the morning. Within 3 weeks, the majority of my patients begin to see that teardrop shape returning to the inside of their thigh. More importantly, they begin to feel their knee tracking properly for the first time in years. Number 4, creating safe space inside your knee joint. Now that we have begun waking up the VMO, we need to address something equally important. We need to take compression off the joint surfaces. We need to gently create space where there has been relentless grinding. Most people over 60 live with chronically tight quadriceps and hip flexors. These tight muscles pull your joint surfaces together, increasing compressive load even when simply standing. A 2021 study in clinical biomechanics proved that quadriceps tightness alone increased compressive joint forces by 43% during everyday activities like walking downstairs. That is 43% more compression before you even begin a deep bend. But here is the critical thing I need you to understand. The answer is not a deep stretch performed with your knee in a compromised position. The answer is a supported, controlled, and safe lengthening technique that respects the joint architecture. This is the standing supported quadriceps release, and it is fundamentally different from the aggressive quad stretches you may have been doing. Stand next to a wall with your right hand resting on it for support. Shift your weight to your left foot. Now, instead of grabbing your right ankle and yanking it aggressively up toward your buttock, which drives the knee into flexion under load, here is what you do differently. Simply lift your right heel off the ground gently, allowing the knee to bend only to the degree where you feel a mild, comfortable tension along the front of your thigh. Your knee should point straight down toward the floor, not swinging outward. Hold that position for a full 20 seconds, breathing slowly. You are not forcing the joint. You are allowing gravity and gentle time to create length. Lower your foot. Pause for 10 seconds. Repeat the hold. Perform 3 holds on each leg. If you feel any pinching behind or beneath the kneecap, you have gone too far. Reduce the angle until that sensation disappears. This approach respects the mechanics of the aging knee while systematically reducing the compressive forces that have been silently damaging your joint surfaces for years. Number 3, retraining your nervous system for safe knee mechanics. Here is something that the fitness industry almost never discusses, and that surgeons see the consequences of every single day. You can have relatively strong muscles and still move in ways that are catastrophically damaging to your knee. The problem is neurological. Your brain has developed movement habits over decades, and many of those habits are placing your knee in dangerous positions during the most common activities of daily life, including sitting down in a chair, climbing stairs, stepping off a curb, and yes, bending down to pick something up. The most destructive habit is allowing your knee to cave inward. Surgeons call this dynamic valgus collapse, and it is strongly associated with meniscal tears. When your knee falls inward, the inner compartment takes massive asymmetric force. A 2018 motion capture study tracked adults over 60. 72% demonstrated measurable inward knee collapse just from standing up from a chair. 72%, and none were aware it was happening. The neurological retraining exercise that corrects this is called the wall sit with alignment cue, and it is not what you think. We are not going to a deep position. We are going to a shallow, controlled, and highly intentional position where your brain learns the correct pattern. Stand with your back lightly against a wall. Your feet should be about 12 inches away from the wall and hip width apart. Now, slowly slide your back down the wall until your knees reach approximately a 45-degree angle. Not 90 degrees, 45 degrees or less if you feel any discomfort. Here is the critical neurological cue. Look directly down at your feet. Your kneecaps must be pointing in the exact same direction as your second toe throughout the entire movement. If your knees are falling inward, Gently press them outward using your hip muscles until they align over your toes. Hold this aligned position for 10 seconds, actively thinking about that knee-to-toe alignment the entire time. Slide back up the wall, rest for 5 seconds. Repeat. Perform 8 repetitions per session, twice daily. Do not rush, do not go deeper, the depth is irrelevant. What you are doing is creating a new neurological groove, a new default movement pattern that your brain will eventually execute automatically during every chair, every stair, every step. Within 4 to 6 weeks of daily practice, motion capture data consistently shows measurable reductions in valgus collapse during functional tasks. You are not just exercising your muscles. You are reprogramming the software that controls how your knee moves through every moment of your life. Number 2, the hip muscle that holds your knee together. We have woken up the VMO, we have created space in the joint, and begun retraining the nervous system. Now, I need to tell you about a muscle that most people never associate with knee pain, and yet a 2022 study in gait and posture identified it as the single greatest muscular predictor of knee joint deterioration in adults over 65. It is the gluteus medius on the side of your hip. Every time you take a step, your entire body weight passes through one leg. The gluteus medius must fire powerfully to prevent your pelvis from dropping and to keep your thigh bone vertically aligned. When it is weak, your pelvis tips and drives your knee into a destructive inward collapse with every step. A 2022 study showed adults over 65 with weak gluteus medius muscles had meniscal degeneration progressing at nearly 4 times the rate of those with strong hips. The side-lying hip abduction exercise is the most direct and effective way to build gluteus medius strength without placing any stress on the knee joint itself. Lie on your side with your body in a straight line from your head to your heels. Your bottom knee can be bent slightly for stability, but your top leg should be straight. Stack your hips directly on top of each other. This is critical. If your top hip rolls backward, you have already shifted the work away from the gluteus medius. Place your top hand on the front of your hip bone so you can monitor whether it rocks. Now, keeping your top leg completely straight and your foot in a neutral position, not pointing up toward the ceiling and not tilting down toward the floor, lift your top leg to approximately 30 degrees. That is about the height of a large dictionary stacked on the floor. Hold for 2 seconds at the top, feeling the contraction on the side of your hip above the greater trochanter. Then lower slowly over 3 seconds. Control every inch of the descent. That controlled lowering builds eccentric strength that is even more protective than the lifting phase itself. Perform 15 repetitions per side, 3 sets. Once this begins to feel manageable, add a light resistance band around your ankles and feel the dramatic increase in activation intensity. Do this exercise every other day at minimum. When your gluteus medius becomes strong, it does not simply make your hip work better. It transforms the biomechanical forces passing through your knee with every step of every day. Number 1, the root cause of knee destruction and the one exercise that fixes it. You have done extraordinary work getting to this point. But I have saved the most important information for last. Because number 1 addresses the fundamental reason that deep knee bends become so dangerous in the first place, and why so many people over 60 feel an almost desperate urge to keep bending deeper, thinking they are maintaining their mobility. When patients attempt to pick something up, their first movement is often driving their knees forward over their toes into a squat, rather than hinging backward through their hips. This excessive forward knee travel pinches the meniscus under enormous load. A 2020 study measured bending tasks in adults over 50. Participants with excessive forward knee travel showed meniscal stress patterns at nearly 3 times the rate of those who loaded their hips first. The pattern of driving the knee forward rather than hinging through the hip is the root mechanical cause of the meniscal destruction that I see in operating rooms every week. The exercise that fixes this root cause is the hip hinge deadlift with a dowel. It teaches your body to load the hip joint first, to recruit the hamstrings and gluteus maximus to manage the bending task, and to keep the knee in a safe and stable position rather than driving it forward into dangerous territory. You will need a broomstick or a mop handle for this exercise. Stand with your feet hip-width apart. Hold the stick horizontally in front of you with both hands at hip height. Your knees are softly bent, not locked. Now, here is the entire movement in one key instruction. Push your hips backward toward the wall behind you before you allow your torso to tip forward. Think of your hips moving first, with your torso following as a consequence of that hip movement, rather than your chest dropping first and your knees chasing the movement downward. As your hips travel back, the stick in your hands will naturally descend toward your shins. Lower it only to the point where you feel tension building in the backs of your thighs, your hamstrings. When you feel that tension, pause. Your hamstrings are now loaded. They are under tension. They are working. Your knees should have traveled only slightly forward, if at all. The majority of the bending has happened at the hip joint where it belongs. Now drive your hips forward, squeezing your glutes powerfully to return to the standing position. That is one perfect repetition. Perform 8 repetitions with exquisite attention to that backward hip push. Rest for 45 seconds. Perform 2 more sets. Practice this movement daily until it becomes the automatic way your body approaches every bending task. Loading the dishwasher, picking up a grandchild's toy, retrieving something from a low cabinet shelf. When the hip hinge becomes your default movement pattern, the mechanical forces inside your knee joint shift dramatically. Instead of your meniscus absorbing the compression of a body weight loaded deep bend, your hamstrings and glutes, the most powerful muscles in your entire body, are absorbing and managing that load while your knee remains in a safe, low-stress position. A 2023 study followed adults over 60 through a 12-week hip hinge program. Self-reported knee pain dropped by 58%. That is a massive improvement without surgery or medication, simply by changing the fundamental movement pattern causing the damage. Look at what you have built by staying with me through this entire video. Number 5, gave your kneecap a guardian by reactivating the VMO, the muscle that keeps your kneecap tracking properly over the joint it was designed to glide across. Number 4, systematically reduce the chronic compressive forces created by shortened quadriceps, giving your meniscus the physical space to do its job. Number 3, reprogrammed your nervous system to eliminate the inward knee collapse that was silently compressing the inner compartment of your knee with every step and every bend. Number 2, built the hip strength that controls your entire lower body alignment, turning your gluteus medius from an absent and silent destroyer into an active and powerful protector of everything below it. And number 1, corrected the root mechanical cause, the forward driving knee pattern, and replaced it with a hip hinge that shifts the loading burden to the muscles built for exactly that purpose. This is not a collection of random exercises. This is a complete and logical system. Each movement in this sequence prepares the joint and the nervous system for the next. Skip number 4 without doing number 5, and you have created mobility without the muscle activation to control it. Perform number 1 without number 2, and you are still loading a hip-weak, alignment-compromised knee with a better movement pattern it cannot fully protect. The sequence is intentional. It is the same sequence I walk my patients through. Your meniscus is not replaceable. Once that fibrocartilage is gone, it is gone. The shock absorption it provided, the stability it contributed, the distribution of load it managed across your joint surface, all of that disappears permanently. And the bone-on-bone arthritis that follows is painful, relentless, and extraordinarily difficult to manage. The damage you prevent today is the surgery you will never need tomorrow. The movement patterns you establish this week are the ones that will carry you through the next 20 or 30 years of an active, independent life. Start with number 5 tonight. Add 1 exercise from this sequence each week. Be patient with your body. Your knee did not arrive at this point overnight, and it will not be fully protected overnight either. But with consistent practice of these 5 movements, the changes are real and they are measurable. I have watched patients restore their confidence on stairs. I have watched them get down to the floor to play with their grandchildren and stand back up without fear. I have watched people who were convinced they were heading toward total knee replacement walk out of my clinic knowing they had real options. These movements made those outcomes possible. Your knees have carried you through every decade of your life. It is time to return the favor. Now I want to hear from you. Which of these 5 movements are you going to start today? Have you been feeling that aching compression after deep knee bends or full squats? And did today's video explain why? Tell me in the comments below. I read every single response, and your question might become the subject of a future video. Thank you for watching. Your knees are counting on you.